What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Midnight Channel. And today we are going to be talking about the PS Vita. So the PS Vita, if you don't remember, is the second handheld of the PlayStation. It was exciting, it was different, it looked really good. I actually used to have one, and I still own the PlayStation TV, which is the smaller TV version of the original PS Vita, and it had a long life, or rather a really short-lived life, with a lot of things that just didn't go as planned. I think for Sony and the guys over there at PlayStation that worked on this project. So what happened to the PlayStation Vita? So I think overall, it was just a lot of different things. So the PlayStation Vita came out, a really positive reception. I believe by the end of the PSP, it had sold pretty well, the PSP. I think it was pretty popular. They were competing pretty well against the DS and Nintendo. Nintendo had a really long life with the 3DS. And overall, I think that Sony was in a pretty good spot for a sequel of the PSP, which was pretty successful with the PS Vita. I think one of the biggest issues with this console, however, was the lack of support from Sony, from third-party developers, from pretty much in general. There was the console had a lot of really strong hardware inside, but I think one of the things is, I mean, there's some really good games in that, like a God of War game. I think that's the PSP, like a Uncharted game that they did in there. They had some other high budget PlayStation games on there as well. I just feel like it wasn't taken care of. One of the biggest games, for example, on the PS Vita is Persona 4 Golden. It was a really good game. I expected us to put more games into it, and they did bring all the PSP games into it. It was completely backwards compatible. You could play all PlayStation portable games in there, and I felt like I really wanted the game to be successful, the PS Vita. I just thought it was a really good console overall. But I just feel overall there was a lot of failed projects that didn't go through. For example, there was a rumored BioShock game on the PlayStation Vita. There were all these games that wouldn't come into it, and I feel like it really needed that at the time. I remember, for example, hearing about a God of War game that we're going to put in it, and that never happened. It happened back in the PlayStation Portable, and it had a pretty good run as well. I think one of the bigger issues is that a lot of the Japanese games that come out for it never come into America. Now, this is a common thing that happens pretty often. However, lately, it's been a much bigger issue where a lot of the different games get announced and they never come to America. It's an issue sometimes with other systems as well. For the Nintendo or PlayStation, it's a pretty common issue. One of the other things I think that was a bigger issue for this is that this was almost a console price for a handheld, and I think it was a bigger thing for this issue than it is for the Switch, because the Switch is basically a small console. You can connect it to a TV, you can take it on the go, but the PSP didn't have that advantage. It was a beefy hardware, but it was extremely expensive. I think I remember buying the game first time for like $200 and something. That was really expensive. You can still find them over $100 online and stuff like that. And it's crazy to think about it, because buying a $200 console on the go is almost like buying a PlayStation, almost like buying an Xbox, a Nintendo system. It was too expensive for people to afford. It's not a Christmas present per se kind of thing. So I think that was definitely on the rough edges there. Overall, I do think that it was a pretty good system, and again, I really enjoy playing Persona 4 on it, which is one of the biggest games that I think came out of that system there. But I don't really have a lot of games that I can say, wow, this game was the one game that will sell the system. And that was one of the other issues that I think had the game. They didn't have enough games to be a console seller, if you can say that. There's definitely any console you can think of. So there's definitely certain games that you can think of that will be console sellers for that games. Xbox has the Halo games and the Gears games. PlayStation has games like God of War and Spider-Man and Horizon Zero Dawn, and the Switch has all these indie games that they have added, including Mario and Zelda, and so there's all these games. PS Vita didn't have a lot of that in it, and I think that was a big issue overall, because if you don't have games for it, then people are not gonna buy your product, especially big games. Even if there's like 3 or 4 really good games, I think somebody could go and buy the game because of it. But I can't really think of these many games that Sony had for the PS Vita at the time. But anyway, that is my thoughts on this. What do you guys think about this? Did you play the PS Vita? Did you not like it? Let me know in the comments below, guys. If you're new, please consider liking and subscribing. But that's it for today. I'll see you next time.